Okay, what we have here is a 97 F250 with a 5.4 in it. This is 97, so it's just a regular 2-valve 5.4. And what we had is a complaint of it running rough and the check engine light was on. So, checked for codes, and sure enough there was a code for a number 7 cylinder misfire. So what we did was, first of all, we went to a cylinder contribution test, which seems to be supported on this with the 10.4 software on the Virus. And here's what we got. Now if you're really tired of it, if you're really having a hard time with the 10.4, I'll just show you a little trick here. And I just took this a little while ago. This here is our cylinder contribution test, and the only problem we have is right here, right up on startup, we had number 6 cylinder had a little bit of a misfire. But other than that, even though this thing's running like crap and there's an obvious misfire, the cylinder contribution test isn't necessarily going to catch it. And I even did a little bit of a brake torque here, and I still couldn't get. About the only time you get a little dive in is when the AC compressor will kick in. You'll see whatever cylinder, because it's basically going by crankshaft speed, so anything that'll temporarily make the crankshaft slow down a little bit, such as the air conditioning kicking in, or if you're driving it and it shifts gears, you'll also see a dive in cylinder contribution on one of the cylinders or another. That's really nothing to be concerned about. What you're really looking for is a cylinder that's got a constant that constantly is running below the 0 mark here. So all what we had here, if we look at it, we see on cylinder 6 it dove down, and that was just on the initial startup. So it could have been a misfire, it could have been just a crank variation where one cylinder fired early or something. That's not a real concern here. Our concern was the code for the number 7. So even though I recorded this with the 10.4 software, if you go down here and you press the start button, right after you record your data, it'll show recently recorded documents. You press on that, and your 10.4 document, or your 10.4 scope recording, will actually come up in the 10.2 format. At least most of the time it seems to be doing that for me, because we're on the shop stream, and the shop stream will still show you 10.4 in the 10.2 format. So anyways, what we got here, we can see our cylinder contribution didn't catch anything. So what I do is I got the lab scope hooked up. Our yellow line here is the coil ramp, and our green line here will be voltage, primary voltage to the number 7 coil. And it's really easy to set up, especially on this one, because your coil feed wire, the main coil supply wire, comes right off the main harness right here. It's the red-green wire, and it's pretty easy to get your amp probe around that. And by doing that, you can check all your coils at the same time. There's another wire in here that drives all your injectors, so you can do the same thing there. Just put it around your main coil, your main injector wire, and then just trigger off of any one of the injectors. And then you just set up the sweep time on your scope so you can see all of them. And if you've got a bad one, you just zero in on that, either by following the firing order, or if you've got a cylinder, you've got a misfire number, or if you've gone to mode 6 to see where the misfires are occurring, you can just go and back probe that one, and then you'd run your trace or your trigger off of that coil. So we're going to start this up here a minute, and we'll see what's wrong with that coil. Okay, we got a good capture here. We were on a 10 millisecond screen, so we probably only got like a second and a half of time recorded here. But you could see most of these coils. Well, what we'll do is here we'll hit the enlarge button so we can show more of the coils rather than just one, and we'll try to go about 8 times. So we got, well, we're showing 6 coils here, and here's our this is our trigger, so this here would be the coil we're recording. And you can see it here already, that the current ramp on this here coil isn't quite right. These are nice and steep, even though we got an 80 millisecond time sweep, and we got a coil on time of probably only 3 or 4 milliseconds. But it's enough already to see that there's a problem right here. And you can also notice here in our primary voltage that there's no firing line here. So we got a problem with that coil. But just to show you, here I can just scroll this a little bit just so that we're looking. From here you can trigger off at any coil, and then you just go by the firing order and zero in on the coil you would like to see close up. But because we already knew we had a problem with number 7, we just went back, probed that one right away. But you could just back probe number 1 and then just follow the firing order to where you see your either a missing current ramp or a current ramp that doesn't look quite right. And you can change this any way you want. Go to 2, so we got about a 20 millisecond screen here, and that should be enough here where we bring up our number 7 coil. Here we can see our current ramp here. It's got a dive in it. It should be like this, should be a nice steady climb, and she peaks up right away and then kind of drifts over. So we're not getting enough energy into this coil to develop a firing line. If there is, it's very, very short. So at least we know where to look. We can pull that coil out now and check the boot and check the coil, probably replace the coil anyways. Take a look at the spark plug, make sure we're not running down the side of the ceramic or something and shorting out. But in any event, that's just a way to a quick path to zeroing in on which coil or which cylinder is giving you the problem. And obviously when you get a current ramp like this, you've got a coil problem. But we'll take a good look at that plug too, just to make sure, because even with that much energy you'd think you'd still get a little bit of a firing line there. But she just peaks up and there's no burn time whatsoever on this. So I guess that's about it for this one. So, okay.